Oh, yes, ma'am.
We're the ambassadors. You go everywhere you go.
You are my team.
Yes. Yes. Wherever you guys are in that. We protect Pat.
Yes. And my group.
Yes.
Like we're going far, like sometimes we go down to 10s, 9 to 10s. So usually one in front and one in back.
Okay.
Not to protect them, but to make sure people don't get lost. Strangle.
People will stop and look at art, and then you're like, okay, come on.
They see a friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boy, sheepdogs. Like sheepdogs. People flock together.
Oh, okay, we're the sheepdog.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Friendly. Absolutely. Very soft heart. Come on. Come on.
It looks
process we can use that practice. They weren't making any money from it. It just wasn't viable. That's what they told me. They free 100 Well, then you have someone like Pedro who moves and moves and moves and moves. Like, without following, get out of the cell phone. Yeah. We can give a little snack. Yeah. I run a graduate program for Syracuse University actually. We have a graduate program that discusses
right, Ellen, and Dan, and Astrid. Was Astrid? And Carolyn is over there. So anyway, so why don't we start?
Larry's over there with the guitar.
Why don't we talk about have the artists who are in this room talk, and then Dan, is your work in the other room?
Yeah, Larry and I are in the other room.
Okay, so we'll talk to you guys. We'll come in there. Okay. So anyway, Ellen, would you like to start? Just tell us, sure. Which ones are yours?
Those are mine if you want to come over here.
Oh, the multi-piece. Yeah.
It's from a series called Letting Go, Holding Back. And for a period of 2 to 3 years, I photographed everything I gave away in order to simplify my life. And some of these things I've had for over 50, 60 years. And by photographing them, I'm able to keep them and have a memory of them instead of being in a box in my garage.
What a great idea.
That is a great idea. Each one is an individual photograph that then I put together in a grid. Epicurus from 500 BC said that we know him for Epicurean things, but he said that we need to simplify our life in 500 BC, and we're still doing that today.
Yes.
And then I have part of the series called Holding Back, and I have some things that I just couldn't bear to do. That's not right. So there's another part of it. There's 4 of these.
Oh. Now, have I seen these?
They were at the Torrance Art Museum about a month ago.
Destination Art?
No, at the Torrance Art Museum, at the open show in December, they were there. And they were at Peggy's Asks when she moved. She's up in Blossom now.
I haven't been there.
I think it's a unique effort. It's a unique neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice space. It goes all the way back. I'm going to be in the show there again in May. And she has a lot of very interesting artists.
Have you been there, Beth? Yeah. On the list. On the list.
Well, she's having an open house this Saturday. I'm sure you're on all the
Okay, so, now was Astrid has,
I'll go get her.
she disappeared.
They're having some kind of meeting. Because I
She gone.
Is that Astrid?
She's shy. Astrid is very shy. But the 2 artists that are in here will be happy to see us.
Okay.
Where are the...
So we've alerted most people to what's going. Most of the artists to what's going.
Okay, cool.
So we have one artist over here. We have another one around the corner playing the guitar. Astrid is over there.
Right.
And there's 3 others in the corner.
And we have Dan and Larry there.
Larry is actually playing the guitar.
Oh,
So you want to talk about? You want me? Oh, there's Larry. I thought mine's your guitar. He's not
Hi,
playing
Larry.
guitar.
So we're going to, Astrid's being shy.
Do you want me to talk about mine here? And then Georgiana's right next to me.
Sure.
So, okay.
What's this way?
So there's quite a lot of noise in the room, so if you come closer in, it'll make it easier. When we go into, if you go to the next gallery, of course, there's less ambient sound. So these are 2 oil paintings, and I work mostly with oils and also with pastels. So I'm a member of the Pastel Society of Southern California, which we started about 9 years ago. And we're having an exhibition for the Pastel Society in about 3 weeks' time. So if you keep me on your mailing list, then you can all join up and you'll all hear about it. Okay, so these are the two landscapes. Now this is obviously a sky, and the title of this thing is "There's Something Up There," meaning what's going on. You know, so there's a little bit of a question going on, and as I say, ambient sound. Cue the dogs, and so the style is if you look at the surface of it, you see it's quite thick, and this is simply by using more paint. It's as simple as that. And I put one layer on, very thin, cover it, and then I wait a short time, and I'm in no rush to get this painted done, so I don't add anything to it. It's just the paint. So I don't have to thin it out, no dryers, no medium. I don't want it smooth. But the second layer, it's establishing the main chunks of colour. And then the third layer is really, really thick paint. And I can put it on, and then I can take a palette knife or a big, thick, dry brush, and I can brush it down and play with it. And the best thing about oil paint is it's very flexible in that you can change your mind. If you don't like something, I want to put something in here. It's in, it goes in. So that's really what that's about. And it's basically inspired by the many sunsets that we have going along Redondo Beach. I live about a mile south of the beach and I walk down there. And the best time to look at the sky is after the sun has gone down. Most people, you see, the sun goes down, and all the cars are pulling out, and people are leaving. That's only the beginning of the reality of what's going on. Because the sun, if you paint the sun, it's a total distraction. And you'll never get it right anyway. It just doesn't work. So if you're going to do a sunset, go down, watch, and if you learn to paint on the spot, you make smaller studies, about this big, and you can actually capture the actual colours rather than just taking a photograph, because a photograph is full of distortions. It's full of distortions, especially if you print it out on your Epson printer, because there's 4 colours in an Epson printer and one of them is black. I don't use black at all because there isn't any representation of black when you look at the sunset, and so the use of the 4 colour printing will screw up your picture anyway. Shadows, because of Kodak and Epson, shadows are represented with black, and that just is wrong. It just doesn't happen. So if you go out there and you look and you make notes, you'll see the right colours. And some of them are impossible to understand, and it takes you about half an hour of looking to actually see what's going on. So because the brain has to adjust to it. And there's in the eyeball there's rods and cones, and they react differently to bright light or low light. Anyway, there's a whole science behind it. This one is a development of a plein air picture. Do you know La Venta Inn?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, there's a fantastic place where you can view the South Bay. If you just go about a quarter of a mile past, going up the road, there's a fantastic place where you can park and have a picnic, and you look out over this beautiful beach and it curves around. They call it the South Bay Necklace. And so I painted that scene many times, and this is about the 4th one. I thought these colours are so beautiful. I mean, they're not the actual colours, but it's the emotional effect of looking down onto this beautiful ocean, right? And you see funny things, like a little splash or a tiny boat, and that's what that's about. That's just an indication that I know things are happening. And here's the wet beach and the sand and the esplanade here. But originally these were like, I say, they were perspective scenes, and so I thought I loved that idea so much. I'll just not worry about the perspective and just change it to virtually straight lines. The next painting from this would be more like nicely tape, very straight, very formal. You know, you can see the whole development, and that's really taking a seagull's eye point of view. So we're just looking directly down, or maybe a drone's point of view. I was out on a boat whale watching a few weeks ago, and apart from the fact that there was aircraft flying around, a drone came out, and we were near the whale, and the drone came out and was looking down at us, and it was so creepy.
Did you wave?
Well, the ocean.
They shot it down.
I have a friend that makes
well, you definitely feel like if you had some launcher, like you could load a bunch of
Friendly hand signals, I'm sure.
Yeah. And take it out of the sky.
All right.
But
Bernard, thank you. I think we need to move on.
sure.
Thank you very much.
Last cover you put on.
When's the last card?
You said we put on 3 different outfits.
Oh, 3 layers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Everything was covered in the last layer. Everything was covered in the thickest layer.
That's a good way to take pictures, you know.
Oh yeah.
I love it better than a cell phone.
Oh yeah.
I have a camera too when I take pictures because so much more stable.
Maiden name in there. I do almost the opposite of that. This is mine, and this is mine. If you go on H2OColorsBySue.com or Watercolors by Sue, Google me, you'll see that I mostly do local beach scenes in the South Bay. I like to do like detailed photographic, type watercolors, traditional watercolor. And like Bernard, I know that there's no black, and I take my own photographs, but I have to work from photographs because it may take me months and months to complete a painting. I do layers and layers of like one bristle brush, very detailed. Like I painted these bricks, like probably each brick I probably touched at least 5 times. So, but like Bernard, I understand that shadows aren't gray or black. Or like if you look at my website, you'll see I did one of the Esplanade and the peninsulas in the background, and in my photograph, the peninsula is just very gray blue, like they show up in any photograph that you would take. But what I do then is I take the photograph home, knowing in my mind that's not what I saw and felt when I was at the beach, and I take it into Adobe and I stitch out, say, the peninsula part, and then I play with the colors on the computer, and I get it the way I want it, and then I put it back in the photograph, and I make the photograph compositionally and then color-wise as close as I can get to what I want the end product to look like. But again, then I still have to be the artist when I apply it to the paper. So if you look into my shadows, there isn't a shadow that's black. I don't use the color black. And a lot of things like the glass here, or I'll tell you, this is another story, but the glass here, this was just a gray blob in the photograph. So in my mind's eye, I had to imagine if I was there, what did I really see? I could see through the glass and out the other side. I could see a reflection on the glass. And so those are the things that the artist adds when they're working from a photograph. And it's very difficult. Plein air works better with oils, but like he said, it's never too late to add a dot. It's always too late in a watercolor. Everything has to be planned before you start. So, it's kind of like a patchwork quilt. I kind of think of it more like sewing. Like, before I start painting, I have to know where every piece fits and what's going to happen, and everything that I put on the paper is a transparent layer of cellophane that goes on the last color, and it can turn to mud very quickly, and occasionally it does. And sometimes the mud is exactly what I wanted, but usually not. So anyway, this is kind of light air. If you look at some of my other work, it's not my favorite artistically, but it's one of my favorite in terms of speaking to people in Hermosa Beach about their beach and what it feels like to be there on a summer day.
Very cool.
This one has a little bit of a different significance to me, because this is the back of the Lighthouse Cafe, which is a jazz place in Hermosa, very famous, and for years and years it's had, some of the most famous jazz artists perform there. The significance of the back of it is, number one, it's 100 times better to look at artistically than the front.
I agree.
And also,
Yeah.
the other significance is, if you lived in the 60s, you knew that all the action was going out the back door. And it was pretty much a smoke-laden, marijuana-laden jazz place in this parking lot that was also full of some vomit, I have to say. But it has a lot of significance. So when I went down there again, you're talking about right after the sun sets, but for watercolors, it's the golden hour right before sunset.
Yes.
Because what do we need to give depth? We're painting a flat liquid on a flat surface. The only thing that gives our realistic paintings depth are the shadows. And so I need the hour before sunset. I need long shadows. I need things that define a three-dimensional object. So when I went down here with my camera before sunset and I saw the ladder casting a shadow across this building, I knew I had something. But I didn't know until I got home and went into Adobe what I really had. Because when I took this picture, this was a black space on the photograph with a yellow dot. When I took it in to midtones and brought it up, this man emerged. I didn't even know he was standing there. Because in the photograph it didn't show. But as I pulled up the midtones, which is something photographically you can do in Adobe, this man emerged, and I'm like, oh my God, that just makes the painting. They were kind enough to let me remove, there were like 10 trash cans right here. They let me move them all out before I took my photos. Anyway, so this will I don't sell my originals, which is not real popular in the art world. I sell giclées because I sell local scenes. They can take me a month to 6 months to paint. How much am I going to charge for one painting? You know, and then I don't have it, and I'm painting things that are important to me, and I want to keep my paintings. So I sell really high quality giclées of my local scenes, and I sell them over and over and over again. This will not be a big seller. Not that many people want a picture of a back of a place in an alley in their house. But to me, it has a lot of meaning. And this will be a much better seller, even though I don't think artistically it's as important or as important to me. But anyway, very cool. But, oh, so then after I painted this and got it into, you know, giclée editions and stuff, then La La Land came out last year. And they do a whole dance number right in front of here. And I'm like, I'm not the only artist who knows this. That's right, yeah. So,
Thank you. And Georgianne is here, and she has. Oops, sorry.
Yes, it's very short. Yes, my son lives in Germany, and I go to different places when I go to visit him. So this French cafe, and I work in acrylic, which dries faster. And this one, I named it my vacation home. It's someplace you'd love to go to vacation. It's imaginary, and yes, that's lovely. You're welcome.
All right. Anybody else on this side? We're going to go back in here. There's a couple of artists who have worked in here. So Larry, since you're here, you can be first.
Okay.
So you won't be the grand finale. You'll be the almost finale.
Man can be the grand.
Yeah, right.
So my name is Larry Manning. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
I'm a landscape artist. Typically, you're 12 months ago doing pastel impressionist style stuff. And I decided to start painting bigger stuff. When you're working with pastel, which is kind of like chalk, you can't, unless you take a long time, do great big paintings.
Right.
They're kind of limited in size. Although I've done big paintings, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, hey, practically, how do I make big paintings without, making it so much work? And what's artistic? And for me, an artist is an explorer. You're always exploring your own mind. And so for me, this is something I'm thinking about, but my purpose is not to paint what I'm seeing. My ideal right now is to paint with the viewer in mind. So what I'm trying to do, when I
I know where that is exactly. And in my head, I could tell you where every little tree is, every little leaf is. But if I was to go there and look at that place for a tenth of a second, maybe for a hundredth of a second, it would look like this. And then in about a half a second, our minds turn it into trees, objects, just what you see. The light hitting the back of your eyes goes to your brain, and then you interpret it and you turn it into something. So what I'm trying to paint is that little space of time when you first glance at something. Trying to remember how it looks to me in that 1/10 of a second, I paint that. And then that leaves it open for you guys to reinterpret it any way you want. And that's what this is about, and this is the direction I'm heading with painting. In my mind, I found out that I tend to look at things like almost like pixels, on a computer. If you expand a computer screen, I can just see pixels. So what I see are pixels in my mind, these colorful shapes. This one is a little different. This one is called Trumpland, and because this is a landscape that I did plein air. I was just out there fiddling around with this concept, and I was overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I call this Trumpland because Trump's golf course is right there. So I was just playing on that one.
So are you doing, this is not pastels?
This is, okay, so this is true playtime right now. This is a mixture of oils, pastels, and acrylic.
Okay.
And I'm using different things for a different purpose. When I want a sharp edge, I wanted these sharp edges and I wanted it to look like that. So I use a pastel pencil, which is really the same thing as an oil paint, but it's on a pencil.
Right.
Some of this stuff is watercolor. This is, if you want to go cheap, you can go to Lowe's and buy house paint and mix it with acrylics. High quality acrylic, clear acrylic, the same thing that any great artists use, and you can paint with house paints. And I think a lot of artists do that. So this is if I was talking to an art academy, I'd say, well, this is acrylic. but I did this playing around with mixtures of house paint.
Well, they're gorgeous colors.
And every now and then I'd get a dye if I wanted something. House paints are usually fairly toned down, So if I wanted something to pop, I use a dye, an acrylic dye.
Is that TV looking down?
That is, that's the Redondo.
It is.
Yeah.
And so it's really just a kind of a jumble of shapes, but you can turn it into.
What it looks like to me.
And I painted that actually with Bernard right there. This is actually Bernard's scene that I stole from him. He took me out there.
So Laura's next one is going to be more abstract or more linear.
I'll just paint this piece right here.
So when you say you want to go bigger, is this bigger than what you're talking about?
No, it was bigger than this. Yeah, maybe, but not. There's constraints on everything. It has to fit in my car. That's my constraint. Although technically, you could just paint on a canvas that has a scroll. I think Dan over here, matter of fact, does do that, and that's a good entree for Dan.
Well, what a great linkage.
Hello, I'm Dan. Welcome.
Thank
And
you.
these are my paintings, and they are graphite on canvas, and they are 3 different grades of industrial graphite in a polyacrylic medium, which I designed as my own paint. And it took about 6 months to figure out the right ratios to get it to do what I want. Now, what I was trying to do with this is I'm fascinated by that fractal water, fractal light in tide pools, which you see rippling about. And my background is physics and computer animation, not fine art. So I came about being a fine artist the long way.
Really?
So I was always fascinated by this light, and I've been doing very detailed drawings of water and light at the water's edge for about 20 years. And then I was visiting a friend in Tribeca in the early 90s, and he was working with graphite on cardboard, and to look at it, it looks exactly like steel. And I picked this up and it was absolutely gorgeous. and the iridescence of it was deep, absolutely saturated. So I looked at that and I thought, okay, I've got to do something with this. I don't know what, but yeah. So I started working with this, and I figured out that maybe I could use this somehow to translate that shadow of what we might do in the rock pools. So this is the result. And the idea is that these are deliberately meditative pieces. So the idea is that you look at this and initially your mind is scrambling to find some kind of association, and you say, oh, that's like, well, no. And so your mind is constantly shifting and being off balance with wanting to try and recognize something at the same time, just relaxing into that kind of infinite detail. I mean, the closer you get, the more there is to see, more and more and more and more and more. And it's exactly the same in the real world, in the environment. The closer you look up, even at a rock or the edge of the water, the closer you look, the more there is to see. And in that seeing, there is freedom from self. You know, we carry around all this baggage with, you know, the idea of ourselves versus others, and it's like a huge weight we're loading around. And this sort of thing is to kind of remind us, just as when we were children at the seashore looking at these rock pools, that there are those moments we can forget ourselves and just enjoy the beauty of things as they are. And I believe it was Isamu Noguchi, the American-Japanese artist, who said that selection and placement can make sculpture of anything, even an old shoe. So if you look closely enough at anything, there's extraordinary beauty to be had. So that's why I do this.
Thank you, Dan. So your medium is, you take acrylics and I missed that part.
Graphite. That's graphite powder.
Graphite powder.
Graphite powder, which is used as a lubricant in machinery.
And you put it in.
And I put it in a polyacrylic binder, like almost like the urethane. And so I mix that up. And you know, in a very specific recipe to be able to get it to settle.
Wow.
Is that like using like a rag?
No, that's actually painting with the canvas itself.
Crumpled up the canvas.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
Oh, he did crumple up the campus. You did crumple up the campus a little bit.
That's part of it.
Okay, that's what I missed.
That's part of it.
I see. Okay.
But part of it is secret.
Oh yeah.
That's okay.
Beautiful.
I could.
Yes.
Would you like to visit Carol's studio? She has two pieces on the wall here, but she's invited to go through the studio.
So let's come and talk to Carol. Hi, come on in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Ali. Yes, the Ali.
Yes. So when I was in Europe, I used to go to Aldi and buy stuff. And now
I'm very fortunate to be in this space. It's awesome. I'm not getting on this practice. Michael downstairs and tries to relate to the space. So I want to do something.
Is he open up?
I don't think so. I think he's not quite ready. Could be this is it's kind of a study of this.
Yeah, now they're thinking about retirement.
I love, you know what, I love this that light.
But I
That, you know, that cool, like stormy kind of day, you know,
More than
gray.
yeah, and but
Not
the
stormy.
ocean is so glistening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. If you get it, if you want to get it, I'll put it
Yeah, I have a couple of cookies.
Berry finger. All right, are we all in there? Are we all who wants to be in there?
Yeah, people are.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you all sit in my
The important
space.
people are here.
Yeah, you all know me. Someone asked me how long I've been here. 7 years. Can you believe that? I've been here 7 years. My work, it's funny that you're here today because I thought I'm going to put up some older work.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, great.
It's a few years ago.
Very nice.
Yeah. And that's my husband on the left. And his friends, when they saw that painting, they said, "Oh, I love that painting. You got to smirk." He's kind of a sarcastic guy. And that's my son when he was sweet. He was 16. I painted that and he laughed because I look like a girl. And my son when he's playing football, and that's my dog. She, of all the pieces, that's the newest on that one.
Is that your dad?
No, that's Pat Hart. It's Pat Hart. It's the gentleman I did. He was a client.
okay.
So it's a copy of the painting.
Right.
So my work is kind of transitioning.
I know you most for this time.
Right.
And now you're doing.
Well, I'm still doing beach work. Like I've got her going, and this is a newer piece. I really want to do more beach paintings also, and I want to do bigger. I've been working kind of small for a long time, and now I'm ready to like blow it up. Cool. Yeah, because I just want to do that. So that's kind of.
Now, when you do your beach paintings, are they from photos, models?
Oh, it's photo. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't capture.
She can't stand there like that.
You can't. I mean, you could go down the beach and sketch, but you need a photo.
That's okay.
Yeah. Even Soraya has did photos.
Yeah.
Soraya did photos. Even Fesham. I was so surprised when I looked through my Fesham book. I don't know if you guys know him, but he was a Russian impressionist back in the early 1900s. And he died. I think he died 30s or 40s or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it was wow. So he was like in the late 1800s. So
Yeah.
I think he came here. Right. So, there's a picture in one of my books of this woman, a photo of a woman, and a painting, and I'm like, oh my God, he painted from photo as well. So if you know how to paint, you can paint from photos. So it's not a.
No, I just was curious to know how you. Here you're painting from live models.
No. I had one in here from a live model.
Okay, because I have a friend in Arizona. But anyway, he for a long time had like in his garage, he turned it into a working studio, and every week, twice or 2 days a week, he had a live model. And friends, a group of artists would come and paint.
I did a lot of that.
Are these from photos or live models?
These are from photos. I have painted from models too. I just sold one not too long ago. But
kind of what artists do in a live drawing session.
Yeah, the thing is, like I used to go to Angel Skate all the time. Before that, I used to go to the Valley all the time. But you don't really have the time to paint. Because you do, at Angel Skate, you do 2-minute poses, and then you do 5-minute poses, and you do 10-minute poses. The longest pose you have is 20 minutes. No, there's, I think, one 20-minute pose twice, so you get 40 minutes. You can't paint in 40 minutes. To do a painting like that took me a couple weeks, so, it just doesn't work that way. Although, ironically, if I was painting for a model, it'd probably take less time, which is kind of interesting.
You know what Bernard was saying, it says he takes a photo, and because the photo doesn't capture the true colors, he also does the color scheme on a little palette. So he brings the colors back with him with the photo, and that's how he puts them together.
So that's what he sees is what's in our
Right. Yeah, you learn. You have to, in my opinion, you have to have had a lot of drawing from a model and doing still life and to understand color and form and all that kind of stuff. You can't just take a photo and start, it doesn't work. Because you don't get enough information.
I get up 4 a.m. so much for work.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Good to keep
You too.
I'll see you again.
Yes.
I'm dead.
Sorry, the crowd wasn't bigger.
Oh, that's great.
30.
I'm lucky if I get it.
Same old things like here, there, everywhere, and nowhere, but
Oh, she does. Yes, very nice. Yeah.
She's tall and she wears a kind of.
Yeah.
Can you take a picture of me and the artist so that I can have it as a